Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will take you through the plot analysis of Oedipus the King. Oedipus the King is part of a tragic play, the classical tragic plays. And in the previous video on drama, we did something on what we mean by tragedy. And tragedy as a play is a type of play that involves queens, kings, princes, and princesses. And at the end of the play, they have suffered enough and even met their ultimate death. So that is basically what a tragic play is. Oedipus the King is one such tragic play. In this video, I will be discussing the plot analysis of Oedipus the King. Fast forward, I want to take us through the major events in this play. But before that, viewers, allow me to thank all those people who have subscribed to this channel. You are the support base of this channel. Again, those who are new here, kindly consider hitting onto that subscribe button so that anytime we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. Again, we normally give specialized classes so you can join the channel membership for exclusive perks. The first event in this play is the plague or the pestilence. So it takes place in a kingdom called Thebes. And in Thebes, a certain plague has set in. And the Thebians, led by their priest, have decided to come and petition the newly installed king called King Oedipus. And they remind the king of his powers. They know very well that he is not a god, he's a human like them, but he's the first of humans. Through flashback, they remind Oedipus of his story with the Sphinx. The Sphinx was a scary creature. On the upper part, it resembled a dog, while on the lower part, it was a woman. So the Sphinx tormented the Thebians for their failure to unravel the riddle that she shot for them. And the riddle was that, who am I? I walk on fours in the morning. In the midday, I walk on twos. In the evening, I walk on threes. And Oedipus arrived in Thebes just at that time and unraveled that riddle, saying that the solution to the riddle was a human being that walks on fours during childhood as he or she crawls along. Then at the fullness of a man's youth and maturity, they walk on two legs, and in the evening, using a walking stick, an old man, old woman bends. So the priest reminds Oedipus of how he was able to defeat the Sphinx, and the Sphinx killed itself and relieved the Thebians of that torment. After that, as the priest goes on to petition Oedipus, then arrives Creon, and Creon is a sister to Jocasta, who happens to be Oedipus' king. The husband to Jocasta, King Laus, had died, and for that matter, Oedipus, who has just arrived in Thebes, was made to marry Jocasta. So Creon had been sent to Apollo. Apollo is the god of the underworld, the god of death, and the god of Hades, to petition Apollo about what needs to be done. And at that time, Creon arrives with a message from Pathos, another name for uh, Apollo's oracle, where Apollo's oracle was located. An oracle is an equivalent of a prophet, was at Delphi. And you will realize that in this play, at other times, Delphi is being referred to as Pytho. So the message from Pytho is that the gods want the Thebans to avenge the death of King Laus, that the killer of King Laus is in Thebes, and for sanity to return back to Thebes, then the killer of King Laus should be identified and killed. That is the message that comes from Python. Then someone, an advisor of Oedipus, that is Creon, advises Oedipus to petition Tiresias, claiming that Tiresias normally uses birds to prophesy, and there is no better prophet than Tiresias. And when Tiresias arrives, Oedipus kind of insists for Tiresias to speak. Tiresias is quite hesitant, but Oedipus is kind of insistent, decisive, and claiming that Tiresias will be a traitor should he keep quiet. And that is when Tiresias opens the Pandora box, saying that it is Oedipus who is the vile polluter of the land, that it is Oedipus who is responsible for the death of King Laus. And Oedipus does not take kindly to these words. Oedipus feels that there is some conspiratorial game being played on him between Creon and Tiresias, and that is what leads us to the next event. That is the conflict now that erupts between Oedipus and Creon. When later Creon comes to the palace, Oedipus accuses him of joining together with Tiresias to dethrone him from the Creontian throne. And Creon kind of gives a certain statement. He makes a statement that if he already has the influence and power as an advisor of Oedipus and as a brother to the queen, and he has that power, yet he has undisturbed sleep, unlike the king, who has people coming to petition him on various issues. Why then would he organize treason against Oedipus? I don't know. Maybe on the comment section you can notify me if that statement by Creon is convincing or not. As this conflict between Oedipus and Creon goes on, then enters Jocasta. And Jocasta would want to know what's going on between her husband Oedipus and the brother Creon. So right away he sends Creon to go home, and he remains with Oedipus. When Oedipus tries to outline to Jocasta what has been going on about between him and Creon, Jocasta tries to tell him to absolve himself of the blame and the guilt that he may harbor as a result of the words of Tiresias. She says that she is quite skeptical of prophets because an oracle at Delphi of Apollo, some of his ministers had prophesied that they will give birth to a son, that is, her and King Laus will give birth to a son, and that the son will kill the father and get married to the mother. But then King Laus was killed, and it was not the son who killed King Laus. So Jocasta kind of consoles Oedipus not to worry himself with Tiresias' prophecy. Then the conversation between Oedipus and Jocasta at that point kind of rings some bell in Oedipus' mind. That is what I've called here Oedipus' anxiety. Oedipus asks Jocasta the source from which they received the news of King Laus' death. And it is said that a herdsman was part of the delegation or the retinue that King Laus was traveling with on the fateful day. And then Oedipus again asks Jocasta where this unfortunate event took place. And Jocasta answers that the death of King Laus took place at Phocis, a place where three roads meet, where we have a two-forked road, one from Daulia and another from Delphi. Oedipus seeks details from Jocasta about the death of King Laus. And the first question that he asks is where the King Laus met his untimely death. And the answer is that King Laus was killed at Phocis, where three roads meet, where there is the two-forked road, one from Daulia and another from Delphi. Secondly, Oedipus would also want to know if there is anyone who survived from that death. And he is told that a herdsman who was in the king's retinue survived. Then, thirdly, Oedipus asks to know how large the retinue was. And the answer is that the retinue was composed of barely 5 people. The king rode on his carriage, and there was no troop that accompanied him on the fateful day. And Oedipus then remembers flashbacks that one night when he was at Corinth and there was a party, then a drunkard told him that he was not the true son of Polybus, the king of Corinth, and his wife Merope. So he was quite traumatized and psychologically disturbed that he decided to go and consult the oracle of Apollo at Delphi. When he went there, the oracle sent him away, but he could hear the oracle mumbling some words that he was going to kill his father and get married to the mother. So he then decided to run away from Corinth for fear of killing Polybus and getting married to Merope. But then he finally asks Jocasta where the herdsman who survived can be found. And Jocasta says that after the death of King Laus, he requested to be sent away from the palace. And being a dutiful servant, Jocasta granted his request. But then he can still be sent for, and that is what Oedipus orders, that the herdsman be called to Thebes. After that, the herdsman, a messenger from Corinth arrives, and the messenger arrives with good news on one hand, bad news on the other. The messenger starts by saying that Polybus, who is the father of Oedipus, has died, and Oedipus is therefore required at Corinth to take up the kingship. So, to some extent, Oedipus feels relieved because Polybus is now dead and he cannot kill someone who is dead. The only worry that he has is that of getting married to Merope. After that, the messenger now delivers the bad part of his message. And he says that Oedipus was not the true biological son of Polybus and Merope, and that Oedipus was given to him by a herdsman from Thebes, that the herdsman had been instructed to take Oedipus to Mount Cithaeron to die, for his parents, Jocasta and Laus, had feared that he would kill the king and get married to Jocasta. As the messenger is still in Thebes, the herdsman who had been sent for arrives, and the herdsman confirms having taken Oedipus to the said messenger here out of pity, because Jocasta had instructed him to take Oedipus to Mount Cithaeron for him to die there. But out of pity, he gave Oedipus out to the messenger who was now come here from Corinth, and the messenger took Oedipus to Corinth to be taken care of by King Polybus and Merope. After that, Jocasta decides to commit suicide, then consequently followed by Oedipus blinding himself using pins from the golden apparel of Jocasta. So this is a typical tragic plot. According to Aristotle, tragic plot has three parts. The first one, the Peripeteia. Peripeteia is the reversal, because Oedipus finds himself in a tragic dilemma. Tragic dilemma is always a lose-lose situation. So he would rather sit back and watch as the people of Thebes are killed using with this pestilence, or he needs to go around and discover the truth. And at the end of the day, his discovery leads to his getting blind or his suffering. That is the Peripeteia. Number two, there is the anagnorisis, when the herdsman confirms to Oedipus that he is the true son of King Laus and Jocasta, that he killed the father and got married to the mother. That is the point of anagnorisis. Then lastly, there is the pathos, or the catastrophe. Here is where the tragic hero, in this case Oedipus, meets his dead end. Jocasta commits suicide, and then Oedipus also blinds himself and later requests Creon to be banished from Thebes. The play here, Oedipus the King, effectively, it kind of effectively leads to the intended ending. A tragic play should always evoke fear, that is phobos, and pity, that is eleos. And that is why, to some extent, uh, Aristotle called it purgation. Through that, there is a kind of catharsis. And a catharsis, in this case, is that kind of a therapeutic role of tragedy. It makes us to be fearful and to have some pity for the tragic hero, because just as the chorus, by the way, Oedipus the king makes a very big use of the chorus. Just as the chorus notes at the Exodus, when the play comes to its end, the chorus makes it clear that the life of a human being is quite meaningless, in that as human beings, we do not have some control about our lives. The pity we have for Oedipus the king is that he is quite helpless in whatever he goes through. There is nothing that he can do, and that is why he really benefits from our pity, that is eleos, and the fear, the phobos, that therapeutically helps us as the audience or the readers. Viewers, thank you very much for watching. Until next time.